Barack Obama is planning on making some pretty big savings. Facing the prospect of a record budget deficit of $1.5 trillion or more, he will today present a budget including a 5-year spending freeze and higher taxes on the rich. Failure could be catastrophic. The Treasury Department warns that without action, the cost of servicing the national debt could triple in the coming years. So we've got Linda Yoon, our economics correspondent, who can put Obama's challenge into context for us now. Linda, what should we be watching for from this budget?
Maryam, we should be watching for whether or not markets believe that President Obama's plan to cut $1.1 trillion over the next 10 years is enough to bring down the borrowing costs. 3 indicators here the Treasury has warned. One is that the amount of money which is spent on interest payments has averaged out 1.5% of GDP in the United States. That's poised to more than double over the next decade on the bigger stock of borrowing. The second one is that Treasury yields, according to a survey of Bloomberg economists, is poised to hit 4.25% on the 10-year. That's higher than the average that they paid on the on borrowing for the past decade, which is only at 4.14%. And very finally, nearly half of all treasuries are held by foreigners. The Treasury has said they need to think about diversifying who's lending to the United States to get it closer to what the UK is, which is just over 30%. So all of those indicators mean everybody will be watching the budget today.
Sure. Thanks very much, Linda. So I'm joined now by Ethan Ilzetzki, a lecturer at the London School of Economics, and he's also a former analyst in the U.S. Treasury Department, so a great person to be joined by. So Obama said at the weekend the budget proposal would ask Washington to live within its means while also at the same time investing in our future. How difficult is it going to be to balance those two things? What does that involve? Well,
the issue here is that, in fact, while the budget is showing some cuts, the proposal isn't really addressing the main issues of budget sustainability in the U.S. The issues of entitlement, Medicare, Social Security are not addressed at all, and so any limits on the current budget are going to be minor in addressing the long-term sustainability issues.
Why? Why are these long-term debt issues not being addressed?
Well, I think it's much easier politically to posture on the short-term issues than to actually address the big issues. Earlier, late last year, there was a deficit commission, the Simpson-Bowles Commission, which made a proposal, was not fully sufficient to address the issues either, but neither of the parties have really taken on these recommendations in moving forward.
But you know, Ethan, it's what, 2 years until the next election. Is it a fear of how voters will react to spending cuts that's keeping the government from addressing debt problem? Because if they don't do it now, when will they?
Well, I think there have been recent polls on the American public's willingness to have cuts, and it seems all American voters are really worried about the deficits, but really can't mention what they would like to see cut.
But one thing they don't want is high taxes.
They don't want high taxes, and that is going to be a big question to look for in today's budget. How far will the Obama administration's proposals go on proposing increased taxes, which certainly the Republican opposition is going to fight very hard.
So what about the proposed draconian cuts by the Republicans? Would they do enough to address long-term budgetary issues?
So unfortunately, while the Republicans have been rhetorically more committed to deficit reduction, these cuts only go, even though they will cut as much as 25% in infrastructure spending, they don't go far enough in addressing the issues. Again, the discretionary budget, the year-by-year budget that's decided by Congress is only about, without military spending, is only about 20% of the entire budget. So without addressing the long-term entitlement issues, Social Security, Medicare, really it's very hard to address the long-term debt issues.
And that's a problem, isn't it? Because Obama is asking Congress to freeze non-security discretionary spending for the next few years, but it's those 4 big spending programs, Medicaid, Medicare, defense, these things are not going to be addressed.
These are not going to be addressed. So the other thing to look for is current proposals within the U.S. Senate to adopt some of the recommendations of the Deficit Reduction Committee. These might have the potential to address the longer-term debt sustainability issues of the U.S. government.
The budget in its proposed form right now likely to be approved by Congress, given that congressional Republicans have vowed to reduce expenditures by $100 billion?
From the details that have come out so far on the president's proposal, you shouldn't see this as the last word on this. This is the first shot in a long battle between the president and congressional Republicans on the budget. So it's going to be a long battle, and we risk even not having a budget starting March.
There you go. Ethan Ilzetzki with a look ahead to the 2012 budget from the LSC. Thanks very much. Good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.